I'm Drew Scanlon. I'm exploring the world through the lens of games, and I'm doing it with the support of people like you on Patreon. Help us out at patreon.com/clothmap. In the wake of the Yugoslav wars, industries of all kinds were slow to grow in the Balkan region. This, of course, extended to the game industry. We've touched on the Bosnian side, but things were tough across the border in Croatia as well. More than 15 years after the war, a gaming conference called Reboot Develop was started by Damir Djurovic, who explained to us that even then it was a struggle.
There was literally nothing. Not only that, but people were not even aware of the size of the games industry at that time. There were literally few studios that were known. So in Zagreb, that was obviously Croteam, because they are the oldest studio in the whole region. Actually, one of the oldest in Europe that still lives. And then on the Serbian side, there was Nordeus with their huge success with Top 11 Football Manager, and few studios doing some outsourcing work and stuff like that. So all in all, you could maybe count all of them on like fingers of two hands, and that was it.
It seems like there was sort of a chicken and the egg situation happening, where people wanted to develop games, but there wasn't a game industry, so it was hard to get funding.
Basically, even at that time, there was no Unity, there was no Unreal. So it was really, really hard to even start developing anything. You needed a lot of resources, and you needed super talented people to start basically building your own engine from the scratch. Croteam was one of the very few ones that decided to do that, in the end to great success. They're still working on their own engine, for serious engine. But at that time it was really hard. It was harder to start in the games industry all around the world, here even more so because there was a lack of financial resources.
If you've heard of one game developer in the Balkans, chances are it's Croteam, the studio responsible for games like Serious Sam and the Talos Principle. We spoke with Chief Creative Officer Davor Hunski about the studio's early days.
How long have you been with Croteam?
Well, I kind of founded Croteam. Well, not, of course, with my guys, but it was my dream. Even in a late elementary school, I was going. I have been with Roman, which is our CEO. We were like in the first grade of elementary school. That means like from 7 years. Now we will be almost 40 years now together. So it's a long, long time. One of our friends had a brother. And that brother, Robert Zeljko, created with two friends from ex-Yugoslavia the first game in these areas, right? It was called Zbudjeti Junction. It was ZX Spectrum game on ancient machines, ZX Spectrum.
In fact, the Spectrum was popular in Yugoslavia for one very specific reason.
The fact about it was super common because it was super easy to smuggle it over the border, like through the taxation office, because it was so small. It was like super small. So it was pretty casually taken from, I don't know, Austria, Italy, or other countries nearby.
Of course, it was around that time that war broke out.
Do you think games can provide an escape from things like that?
Of course. I wasn't aware because my mind, and we were all living in those, I don't know, fantasy worlds and then sci-fi thing and books and movies and stuff. That's what we are thinking about, and we didn't register. You know, some people, if you don't have that, maybe you would go to politics, maybe you would end up in army and stuff like that. So, yeah, well, our mind was occupied always by some things that, you know, like not that down to earth, like as all geeks actually do, right? The government decided that people that go to university should not go to the army. That was the kind of rule. So we went to universities. Well, we would otherwise go to the university to learn some stuff, but it prevented us from going to the war actually. Hard time here because there was no financing, you know, like the country was in ruins. Even today we are trying to catch up with the more advanced Europe countries.
There was no game industry here.
No. There was no. Well, actually, we had so much issues with our parents because we go to studies and so it was always like question. Okay, Davor, you're making games, but what will you do for a living, right? There was no idea. Not near that you can live out of making games, right? That was like 10 years ahead of time. But we kind of hope that we can do it. And with our first game was a football game that actually we did because we loved playing football, soccer, right? And it was the European Championship. We always had fun watching those stuff, and then we made the football game. We like football, right? Then was Doom and Duke and all kinds of first-person stuff that blew our mind, right? Then we did Serious Sam as kind of, I don't know, stuff that we would like to play to open bright spaces. We were inspired like ancient civilizations like Egypt and stuff like that. So that's expression of what we actually think about, live, talk about every day. The same with Talos, like stuff when we lunch, we have discussions about future, AI, religion, culture, humanity.
You are risen from the dust, and you walk in my garden. Hear now my voice, and know that I am your maker.
When we created the first football game, it gave us a little bit of money. It gave us actually more than the money. It gave us, it showed us that it can be done. After that, we spent like 5 years to making the first Serious Sam game. That time was really, really hard. There's no money. We didn't have, Unreal was there, but it was like $1 million or something. I don't know, it was really expensive. So there's no way we didn't afford coffee, right? So we couldn't afford anything like that. So we had to create our own engines. And we worked like every day, like 12, 13 hours. We almost didn't sleep. Our will, our desire to do that, it was so huge. And we almost failed. Like we sent our demo to the many publishers, right? I think that was really great. And common sense would be to take this because we were cheap, completely new engine, completely new design style. It was so easy call for yes, but everybody say no. And we put it on made a demo and made it free demo for the internet. And that demo was like the most played thing, demo of the year or the summer. And people start constantly poking publisher, what's going on, why nobody is taking this awesome game. And then they started calling back. Since those times, we always try to do as much as we can for our fans. You do games so you can have people having fun, like enjoying them. And when you see such a warm, like expressions in their comments, and it gives you so much power. Whenever I'm kind of sad or I need some, I don't know, encouragement or fueling up, right, my reservoir. Then I just go to the Steam and try to see some new comments on whatever Serious Sam or especially Talos. And like it's good enough for 6 months of goodwill, and that you know why you're doing it. Croteam's DNA is a very strange thing, but I think that's also what people love. I don't know.
Why do you say it's strange?
I don't know. Well, we are not always motivated by business success. It's kind of family thing, but still, I don't know. We never plan what sells good. We always do what we would like to play. It's like you don't do first-person shoot puzzle games. That doesn't sell. Okay, we have Portal, and that's it. I clearly remember how, on one side, if it doesn't go well, we'll probably have financial issues, that's for sure. But on the other side, we are so sure that it is such a great game. We enjoy it, and we cannot wait for people to try it.
My temple awaits you, child. Go forth.
We will believe that if we enjoy making it, we hope that people will enjoy playing it. You can say opportunity cost is huge, right? We could make flat games and make much more money, but I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. We sometimes go by our hearts. We always go by our hearts. We are confident we can do any type of game that we want because we have kind of quality in programming, designing, feeling, and passion is there for all kinds of stuff.
There's also a strong passion to help others in the region, which Croteam does with their Incubator. Elsewhere in the building, at least 4 other teams were working on projects like Serious Sam Tormental, a top-down cooperative version of Croteam's long-running series.
All the rooms are, of course, procedurally generated.
Oh, I'm now a geyser of blood.
A turn-based tactics game called Battle Bolts.
You need to put in 4 commands here, and after you put your 4, I put in mine, and everything plays out at the same time.
A Serious Sam-themed endless shooter called I Hate Running Backwards.
We
flipped the shooter upside down. You have to watch out for the enemies at the bottom and also the traps that can come at you from the top side.
And Hand of Merlin, a squad-based tactical game.
We basically combined two of the games that we personally enjoyed playing the most, that we're really passionate about, which is FTL and XCOM, and I think we have something really exciting.
The first game is really the most hard one to do, right? So that's why Roman and and Croteam try to help the young ones, the indie ones, to get on their feet and maybe get over the first game and hopefully become game developers that can sustain themselves over a longer period of time. We'll see. We feel as a moral obligation as a Croteam to be like, cornerstone of Croatian game development. I don't know, we want to help out, that's it. We feel morally responsible for helping our people.
As it turns out, even with help, some of the challenges here can be difficult to overcome.
Croatia, for some weird reason, and United States don't have a mutual law that says that we are skipping double taxation. You end up paying 30% in United States, and when the money comes here, you end up paying the tax again. So you end up with only half of the money. So that's one of the huge practical hindrances right now. Other thing is, or was before, was lack of investments, but that slowly is changing. A lot of big-time investors from the West are actually seeing this as an amazing opportunity, because for 10 million investment in here, you can get 5 times the size of the studio you would get, I don't know, in UK, France, or whatever, and the talent is as good as there.
It's really fast environment, right? You can stuff that was like 5 years ago and what will be in 3 years ago and what will be in 3 years, I really don't know, right? We started before internet, so our first games, we went to record discs and send them out with post, you see, and then now we're in VR. Who knows what will be next, right? People, when they get older, they kind of grew up and they become not that good as they were like kids, and I don't like that. I don't think that should be happening, but somehow it happens around me, and I'm glad that I'm not the part of that. You learn skills, that you become very, very skillful, right, in something that you do, but in your heart it never changes. Like I'm 18 all the time, frozen then. That's it, yeah.
War in the Balkans fractured more than just Yugoslavia. But Croteam and others are trying to reverse that and find ways to come together. It's a slow process, but one Devolver seems committed to.
As many people as we get to the game development, the world will get better. We will help as much as we can, really. You need to be pleasant and good person to everybody else. That's to enjoy life, because life is kind of short, and like it passes in a second, and you should not spend one single minute in being nervous or in bad mood or stuff like that. They're so good in so amazing creative stuff in the world that you can drink just from that and not from problems, issues, whatever. They don't do that. That makes no sense to me.
Cloth Map is possible only because of our supporters on Patreon. If you liked this video and want to keep seeing more like it, we'd love to have you with us.